Have you ever turned on your TV and seen something you were never meant to see? In tonight's creepypasta, that's exactly what happens. One person stumbles across a mysterious channel, showing a disaster no one else in the world seems to know about. Stick around to find out if he ever uncovers the truth behind what he saw. But before we dive in, if you enjoy scary, horror, creepypasta stories like this, please take a second to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and I truly appreciate your support. Also, I just want to say, I know the videos have been a little short lately. Work's been keeping me busy, but this channel and your amazing comments truly mean the world to me. This is what I love doing, and thanks to all your beautiful words, I'll be back very soon with longer, spookier stories. Now, let's begin. It lay there on the side of the road, a subtle box. Inside it, a standard television set. Nothing extravagant, but very nice. A sign is attached, and it reads, "Free." You're tempted by the offer. A seemingly perfect television, with all parts included, free of charge, no questions asked, but you're taken aback by it. Why on earth would anyone leave a free TV for any stranger who stumbles upon it? You set rationality aside and pick up the box. You take it back to your place of residence and set everything up. By the time everything is ready, it's late. But you've worked hard to put this together. You're going to watch some television before heading to bed. You turn the television on. The glare is now the only source of light in the entire room. It starts on an apparently random channel, 371. It's a dark living room, only visible by a glaring, unseen light source. A tall male, presumably in his mid to late 20s, is also in the room. He sits in front of the light source. As you watch him, you notice that only his eyes are moving. They dart left to right, up and down, in rapid-fire fashion. After a while, you become somewhat bored of this. You start to look at his surroundings. They're rather simple, things you see in anybody's living room, a couch, coffee table, etc. But then, two enormous white circular things appear. They begin moving rapidly around the man. He's completely unaware of this. You're intrigued by these things and cannot help but stare at them. Wherever they may lead you, you follow. Eventually, the man is attacked by one of these things. The screen goes entirely black, with no glaring light. You may assume this means the television is broken, but it's not. It turns back on again, in another location. This time, a rather hefty woman is sitting on the edge of her bed. She's looking at a glaring light source, and her eyes are darting in the same fashion as the previous person. The same thing occurs. Two massive white circular objects appear and move in several directions behind the unsuspecting woman. You again follow them, unable to look away. As in the previous video, the thing attacks the woman. The screen cuts to complete darkness. The same process occurs 3 more times, but then, just before the final video, a small red light turns on from the top of your television set. The final video begins to play. In this video, you see yourself sitting in your living room. Your eyes are moving rapidly in front of a glaring light source. 2 enormous white circular objects appear. They move at the fastest rate ever. You cannot look away now. And just before the thing is going to attack you in the video, you're suddenly jumped on by something colossal, jet black, with 2 piercing, glowing white eyes. You might already have heard of the TV broadcast hijacking in Seneca, South Carolina. The stories gained pretty wide currency on the internet, and part of the broadcast is available on YouTube. assuming it hasn't been taken down for whatever reason. For the uninitiated, the Seneca hijacking is one of the lesser-known broadcast signal intrusions. It was big news here, but the national media barely touched on it. Anyway, I've decided to jot down my impressions of the whole thing, even though other eyewitnesses have already described it more eloquently than I could. I was home on winter break when it happened, making chemistry flashcards in front of the TV. No one else was around. After watching the umpteenth Law and Order rerun, I got bored and started channel surfing. A couple of minutes later, I stumbled onto this crappy public access channel where, bizarrely enough, my old high school Latin teacher was reciting a poem while wearing this dorky three-cornered hat. I watched for a few minutes and had a good laugh. I remembered him as a pretty serious guy, not the sort of person who'd embarrass himself in public like this. When suddenly there was a staticky crackle, and the screen cut to a multicolored test pattern. Before I had time to change the channel, there was another crackle, and this weird cartoon showed up on screen. The animation style was detailed but kind of jiggly and rough. It reminded me of those old anti-drug PSAs. Anyway, it seemed normal enough at first. An ordinary-looking middle-class family eating breakfast together at a round kitchen table. There was a mom with an old-fashioned hairdo, a dad, two cherub-faced kids, a boy and a girl, all very Norman Rockwell. The family's making banal small talk. The dad complains about his day at the office. The kids prattle on about soccer practice and so on. Gradually, though, the scene starts to get slightly sinister. A green light is seeping through the open window, and the family acquires a jaundiced, unhealthy look. Their skin changes color and their eyes become sunken. In the background, a droning radio broadcast slowly becomes perceptible. The announcer gives the date as November 15th, 2017, and starts to go on and on about some strange crisis. You can barely hear what he's saying. He mentions something about a green light, melting flesh, mutations, strange shapes emerging from the sea. Again and again, the phrase, "report to the nearest shelter immediately," is audible. Still, the family keeps eating breakfast as if nothing is happening. Here's where it gets really macabre. The family finishes eating breakfast, and the mom loads the kids into a minivan. By now, they look really unhealthy. Their bodies are skeletally thin. The whites of their eyes are a sickly yellowish color, and their hair is disheveled. The car drives through a landscape bathed in the green glow from before. Strange shapes bob in and out of the screen, but you can't quite tell what they are, and all the buildings the car passes look weathered and deserted. Finally, the car stops at a playground, and the mom drops off the kids before driving away. There are large, oddly colored rocks all over the ground, and moaning can be heard in the distance. The kids hang mirthlessly on the monkey bars for a while. Eventually, the camera pans over the playground, and you see that the rocks littering the ground aren't rocks at all, but naked human forms, horribly disfigured. They seem to be either growing into or from the ground. I can't say which. And they are very much alive. Behind the monkey bars, a tree can be seen with a human face growing from the trunk, its features writhing and contorted in agony. The scene suddenly shifts to a white-collar office where the children's father is stooped over a desktop, typing away. His features are as sunken and diseased as those of the other family members, and the office is covered in a green glow. In the other cubicles, fleshless corpses sit upright at their desks, frozen in death. Finally, we see the family return home for the evening, walking through the front door together. Their skin is no longer simply jaundiced, but actually melting off, dripping from their outstretched arms and running down their faces in drops. As they are literally falling to pieces, the family sits down in the dining room and begins to eat dinner wordlessly. Their flesh becomes more and more amorphous, ribbons of skin dangling from their bodies, like the tendrils of an octopus. I can barely describe it, but they somehow begin to merge with the chairs they are seated on, or rather their skin grows over them. By now their skin has the consistency of melted ice cream, and they are barely recognizable as human, except for their eyes, which somehow remain intact. The camera zooms closer and closer to the table, and finally, their eyes all move directly toward the camera, conveying a feeling of unfathomable sadness. The screen goes black, and large white letters appear. Report to the nearest shelter immediately. Remaining at private residences is strictly prohibited. And with that, the screen turned to static. I stared in stunned silence for a few minutes before the banal local channel switched back on. And that's all I know, really. I almost thought I was dreaming until the paper reported the story the next day. God knows what really happened. Maybe it was a ridiculously elaborate prank, or perhaps some kind of ill-advised viral marketing campaign. The crazier parts of the internet have their own theories. One channel, simply marked Component 1, caught my attention immediately. I don't know how or why, but this channel displayed security camera feed from some high school. In silent grayscale, the feed would cycle through different cameras around the building. At first I thought the school might be the high school near my apartment, though having private televisions accidentally pick up the security feed seemed like something that should have been easily prevented by using a closed circuit. It was especially confusing why it would show up on my TV's component channel, but certain camera feeds, especially from the parking lots and outside of the building, made it clear that the school was not local. I never did figure out where the school was, but I developed a voyeuristic fascination for the feed. I understood the phenomenon of people watching. There is something strangely gripping about being a fly on the wall as people go about their daily lives, like you're stalking NPCs in a video game. Like I said, my television didn't get many channels, so I often had Component 1 running in the background while doing other things. One time, while I was watching the feed, an earthquake happened at the school. I didn't feel it, confirming that the school was not near me. The cameras shook, objects fell, and I saw students and staff running for shelter. The shaking stopped after a few moments, and after a couple of minutes, the evacuation began. While everyone was filing into the hallways and leaving the building, there was an aftershock. The aftershock was worse. People were knocked down, and ceilings in some rooms collapsed. Some cameras went dark. The aftershock ended, and the evacuation continued. But sometimes I would catch a glimpse of someone who was injured and unable to move, or unconscious. Some cameras I was familiar with were now only recording a small corner of the room, having been knocked off center by the quake. Smoke began filling several rooms and corridors, especially the cafeteria. Gas line rupture. One shot of the front parking lot showed smoke billowing out of the building. I could also see that cars had drifted and power lines had been knocked down. Horrified, I flipped through the other channels to find coverage of the event, but there was none. No breaking news, and even scheduled news programs said nothing about an earthquake or a school fire. I switched back to Component 1. By now, most cameras were completely filled with smoke. I saw first responders begin to enter the building and start pulling out people. I thought maybe I could help by showing someone the feed on my TV. I called the police, hoping they could contact emergency services wherever the school was, in case their security feed was inaccessible, and they could use the information. The dispatcher was confused about what I was trying to convey, but 2 officers did come to visit me. While I was waiting for them to arrive, there was another tremor. I saw debris fall on top of first responders, and after a few seconds, the feed went entirely dark. The police thought I was playing a prank. They told me there were no reports of a major earthquake anywhere in North America, let alone a school disaster. I asked them to find out about the rest of the world. They checked and told me there were no reports from anywhere else either. I never got back the Component 1 feed, and to this day, I have been unable to find any reports of a school earthquake disaster from that date.